Welcome to Treknicity, a Star Trek podcast, where we're going hunting for an episode full of Easter eggs and trying to nerd out half as much as Boimler. I'm Lars.
And I'm Patrick, and what happened? I'm just curious, why did we get an episode so early?
I can tell you right now why. San
Why?
Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah. I completely forgot about that being in the middle of nowhere. And yesterday literally being the busiest day
of any
my
Comic-Con
week.
everywhere, period.
Yes.
San Diego
Yeah.
Comic-Con is the mecca for nerddom.
Yeah, had we known that, I would have still not had any time to do anything and record yesterday.
Because you were gaming and working and gaming.
Because literally got off yesterday, game till 3 a.m., got up at 6:30, worked till 3:30, rushed like hell to get ready to run D&D at 6, got done about midnight, 1 a.m., and that's when I finally got to watch this episode. Then I had to go to sleep.
At least you don't have to work today.
Exactly, because that means we can do this episode.
Exactly.
And
get it out early.
I'm going to cool it on this episode with the whole Ortega's or we riot because...
Well, let's do this. How about, in this 8th episode of the 7th and final season of Treknicity, we present to you a recap of the 7th episode of Season 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds entitled Those Old Scientists.
They sure as hell picked a good time to run with this because, they picked a terrible time for us, but an awesome time for everybody else because this was just cool. But we're going to have to get into it. So let's go. Let's fire up the spoiler alerts because we're going to talk about this. What the hell? Okay, so important points in the previously on Star Trek. They reference Uhura, La'an's whole time jinx things with Jimmy Kirk, pop in some Orions, and we've got to come up with a good ship name for Spock and Chapel. I go with Spackle, but that doesn't sound right.
Of course you would. Spackle.
Yeah.
Or Spockle,
Again,
anyways. But
anyway,
I like Spackle. I do like Spackle.
I don't think it's perfectly accurate.
It isn't accurate, but still it makes me laugh. Oh, yeah.
Speaking of making us laugh, the episode opens in the animated version of the universe on the USS Cerritos. We get Boimler talking there in the Kralmuth system. They're visiting the portal on Kralmuth B. And strangely, Boimler, of course, is starting to fanboy out a little bit already over how cool this was because the crew of the Enterprise under Pike was there. And Mariner, of course, gives him shit for this. Rutherford and Tendi are getting all excited because they get to do science shit.
They get to scan things, man.
Yeah.
The big thing
They're scanning shit.
They were looking for, what was the not Tetrion, damn it. The one
Oh no.
Yeah,
there's Tetrions in there too. Which reminds me of the damage I had to do on Star Trek Online today. But oh well. Complete side note. Because the Tetrion damage when I do it to my character is with the dual Tetrion rifles of 7. You know, where they stuck in there for that one short shot from Picard.
Yep.
Wow, we're nerding out already.
Yeah, we are.
Awesome.
Still. The thing is, I want to say...
Mariner's in charge, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, of course, this whole episode is literally designed... I mean, it is a link between... Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, but the funny thing is that the fact that that Boimler is absolutely going fanboy all over this, the original,
those old scientists.
Yeah, those old scientists crew of the Enterprise, and the fact that basically no mention is made of Kirk.
Said that in the first scene.
Yep,
we're done. Go.
So, onwards and upwards. I thought maybe William Shatner would probably be frothing at the mouth.
Well, yeah. We got a good Kirk now, so we don't need him anymore.
Yeah, and on that note, I'm actually really quite surprised because I was forced when I was married to my ex-wife. I was forced to watch The Vampire Diaries, with Paul Wesley, and I used to hate him with like the intensity of 1,000 Suns, but one of the coolest Kirk characters I've seen. Very, very, very Kirk-like.
Yep. Okay, so they get to the planet. They start scanning. Tendi says that Orion's discovered this portal, and we go Bethy. Not all Orions are pirates. Things because my great grandma was on board. I wonder if that'll come back.
No,
One of the
sure it won't
references
show.
the NX01 and how it had Hyronium on it because they're scanning it, and wishes he could be back in time. I wonder if the whole NX01 reference is going to come back.
No, not at all.
So of course, Rutherford takes a pick, triggers the portal, and Boimler gets live action in front of Spock, Una, and La'an. And we go to our opening credits.
That was funny. That was really good, and it's actually one thing that my wife said to me is, I mean, she is a Star Trek fan, but she's kind of been a little bit sort of iffy on the whole new Trek thing. But she said that the whole transition from animated to live action and having Boimler get ejected out of the portal was kind of a cool sort of setup, and yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And visually, the portal from the animated to the live action, it's a little hard to tell the difference. Mainly because they animated. Obviously, they're both animated. One of them just animated for live action.
Right.
Which, speaking of animated for live action, we get to the opening credits, where a few things become clear. Although we knew a few of these things already. This is the opening credits animated in the Lower Deck style, and they are just as beautiful as the live action credits.
Yep.
And of course, that one space creature that sucks on the Cerritos nacelle in their opening credits is chunked onto the Enterprise, and then it drops off at about Starbase One. We of course see, in addition to our normal Strange New Worlds people, we see of course the Lower Decks Big Four, and more importantly, we find out here for certain that Jonathan Frakes is directing this episode.
There is one other small Easter egg that links, even if you didn't know that it was a crossover episode. There's one last bit at the very end of the opening credits that links this to Lower Decks, and that is the space outline of the giant koala.
I didn't see it. I missed it. I'll have to go back and look at the credits a few more times.
Mm-hmm. It's the very, very end.
Because of course they're going to put the space koala in there.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Jonathan Frakes. Jonathan Frakes has got to be like, even though he got a really bad rap about the performance of Insurrection, which ultimately cost him the directorship of Nemesis. Although Nemesis would have been at least tolerable had Frakes actually directed it. But I digress.
Insurrection was not great, but not terrible.
No, I mean it
was a TV episode.
An extended TV episode, absolutely. But I digress. Sorry. The whole point is that Frakes has become one of the most prolific directors in Star Trek.
Yep. So we pick up the episode back in live action for pretty much the duration. We get Pike and Una. They're checking over Boimler's comm badge because it's a communicator, and I like how it flips up. I like how ours flips up.
Yeah, like the flipping open was the best part.
Yeah, it's that cool motion rather than the.
Yeah.
Okay. So we get the scene where Boimler wakes up and nerds out because it's Boimler.
Of course, he thinks it's a computer simulation because he thinks there's no way he could be on the real Enterprise. So of course the first thing he says is computer end program, and it doesn't.
Nobody knows what he's talking about because they don't have holodecks yet.
Right.
So, after just watching Boimler just bounce around the room looking for a couple minutes, Lon takes him, goes over the temporal protocols, and Boimler's of course matching her because he knows him just as well as she does, and she adds her little one about not getting attached because, well, something about not almost banging Jim Kirk in the past in an alternate timeline.
She would have done it.
I don't. Yeah, we know. I'd fuck Paul Wesley. Anyway, so we find Boimler stuck in some room. I'm not sure where he is, but Pike saddles there. So of course he Rikers himself onto it. Off screen, Frakes face palms really hard.
Yeah. The funny part about it is
Maybe a double face palm.
I love it. I love it actually when he says it. He actually says the word when he
Riker.
Riker. I was like immediately I like oh I was like I'm totally like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm like right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, this interrupts Uhura, who's trying to work, and well, yeah, more nerd out. That's strangely, this is going to be a theme that in every scene he's nerding out about something, because that is literally Boimler in the past is Boimler nerding about being in the past.
But that's Boimler. I mean, that's the character. At
least when we get Mariner, she's not going to nerd out, right?
No, not at all.
And nobody else is going to nerd out.
Nobody.
Spoiler alert. So Mbenga, Spock, and Boimler go down to the planet and try to figure out how to get this portal working. Boimler is babbling as usual, and Spock laughs. Boimler's like, "What the fuck?" So this gets interrupted because the Orion ship shows up. They beam up. Boimler comes to the bridge, proceeds with nerding out, references NCC 1701 dash.
Nothing.
That's it. Nothing. And of course, nobody's like, what would come after the dash? He, of course, forgets the whole temporal protocols and talks about how in his day it's not encouraged, it's frowned upon to think of all Orions as pirates, and these can't be pirates because blah 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 blah. So the Orions beam up after a little bit of a confrontation. The Orions beam up the portal and take off with it.
I'm not sure if it's this scene or if it's a later scene where basically Pike tells Boimler not to tell him anything, so he starts telling Uhura.
That's later, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So we cut to Pike and Una talking about fanboying Boimler, how he seems to run away from Una panicked, and he's basically acting like a toddler knocking over the furniture. Because literally that is what he's doing. We cut to a scene with Ortegas and Chapel, who decide to give Boimler some shit because we can't seem to give Ortegas anything except, hey, I'm going to be cool and say some cool stuff in the scene and not have any character development. But that's it.
Still.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm getting there. Don't worry. We'll get my full I want Ortegas episode or we riot later. But they watch a couple Andorians walk by. Thankfully, it's not fucking Jennifer. Fuck you, Jennifer. Of course, Boimler can't help but overshare, and they find out that Pike's birthday is on Friday. So, hey, we're going to throw a party, and we'll give you all the credit, Boims.
Like, damn
and then
it.
Spock shows up, and we get a creepy Spock smile.
That really threw me off this entire episode, to be honest. I wasn't sure if it was some like effect of like temporal effect or if it was just him trying to do his thing.
No, from what I gather, it's basically Spock trying to express human emotions. So he's Vulcan, human, Vulcan.
Yep.
It's kind of weird, but it does. But since we've seen Spock show emotion before, all the way back to the cage where he laughs at something. So
Fun fact.
It's not completely out of character. Although I think they heightened the awkwardness in this episode just for Boimler's sake.
Yeah.
So it might be a Boimler point of view where he's like, Spock smiling.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
going back to the original pilot, Leonard Nimoy actually did say that the reason why Spock shows that emotion is that he was playing effectively. He was playing opposite Jeffrey Hunter, and Hunter's Pike was very straight laced, rigid, no emotion, that sort of thing. So he wanted to play off
Think
of
fuck
that,
ants mouth threw that out.
and then of course when Shatner came in and took over and played the role of Kirk, who was much more, much more
Her,
vibrant.
more
Uh,
Shatner.
yeah, well, he's much more vibrant as a
Hi, I'm
character.
Will Shatner.
Then uh, Nimoy felt that he had to take Spock to the opposite end of the spectrum. So yeah,
I have no idea what you said. I was struggling to recover my headphones. But I agree with whatever you said because
sure.
I know it better than to not to. Okay, where were we? So Boimler goes sprinting after Chapel to talk about how Spock's suddenly becoming weird, and she kind of figures out that this isn't going to remain, and she might not have a future with Spock in this case, and like, oh no.
Like we didn't
So
say
yeah,
what's coming.
so don't know whether that's how that if that helps break the canon or helps fix the canon. That's kind of weird.
Well, I mean, given the timeline and the positioning of these characters right now, there's a little bit of room to play. So they can kind of they can kind of do what they want as long as they get to where they need to be. That's the important thing, and I think they've set the stage for that. It also sets the stage for Chapel going off at some point and meeting Roger Corby.
Yeah, because they need to fit all that definitely happen in canon stuff in there.
Hmm.
So yeah, they'll figure it out. I think I trust them to not do anything too terrible. Any changes they make are because, well, this is 60 shit. We just need to change it because it's shit.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So, yep. So we find out that pretty much nobody on the Enterprise has the skills to track the Orions, which is a problem. However, Boimler knows how to track the Orions. So they let him go. He gets under a console and just starts rewiring the shit out of everything and manages to tangle him up. Of course, the important thing is nobody watches what he does. So they're literally all standing on the bridge facing away.
Yeah, because they have this
But
whole
of course-
discussion about, well, we can't just not look, right? Or can we? So they'll turn
And
around.
they stand there and don't look. Yeah. But of course, now they can track the Orions.
Mm-hmm.
So the Enterprises catch up with the Orions quickly. Boimler, of course, spills that one of his friends' great grandmother is on that ship, so he can't blow it up. That would be bad. Then he'd wipe her out of existence. And you're good at negotiating and yada yada, and you got great hair.
Yep, the hair comes back. Although the funny thing is, in the animated version of the show, Boimler has really really cool hair. I mean, it may not in the grand scheme of things. I think he has the best.
This one in live action, it actually Jack Quaid had to get a wig because of other commitments and things. He wasn't able to do the actual purple dyeing. So
Right, and that makes sense. I mean, because he's got
so-
I don't know if The Boys is coming back for a fourth season, but he's got to be involved in that as well.
yeah, he couldn't dye his hair because of that. So, but the hair works. It's more about him bringing all of the animated Boimler mannerisms and trying to perform those, including the Section 31 power walk and
Oh yeah, he does a really great job of that.
flailing and the hand stuff and the screaming, which we get plenty of Boimler scream.
Yep.
So of course Pike tries to negotiate, and they want the grain that's for the starving colonists. So they make the trade, get the portal. They go back, get that. They determine there's enough Hyronium for one more trip. So Boimler sends us goodbyes. They activate the portal, and Mariner comes flying through.
Whoops.
And that's it for the last of the Hyronium. And of course, Mariner says, "Oh, cool! You guys are cool. Is Uhura here?"
Of course. But of course, that is the wonderful awkwardness that Lower Decks brings to the franchise.
Yeah, it's glorious. So basically they have a meeting. Boiler and Mariner standing arguing. Reference that one DS9 episode where they go back to San Francisco
During the
during
Bell Riots.
riots.
Yep.
Yeah, and for some reason Mariner thinks Spock's really hot, young Spock.
Well, he
They have
is.
a meeting. They have a meeting, and Boimler and Mariner just talking up their usual Boimler and Mariner. Of course, Mariner figures out, hey, I just figured out a way to work with Uhura. So of course she talks her way into that and pairs Boimler up with Spock, who of course gives another one of those trademark creepy smiles. I really hope that doesn't show up for any other episodes.
Yeah, that's
That
really.
we get him having little expressions, but not later he has a normal expression, and it's glorious when it happens, where he says, "Do you feel lucky?" and just a little bit of smile.
Yeah.
That's good. That's when it finally feels good again. But we'll get there. So, but we get a scene where Boimler's talking to Mariner how this reality is really not meeting up to what he expected, because this is reality and not
Well, not the adventurous
his.
past.
Yeah, I mean it is, but it isn't. Una comes up on him, and Boimler power walks away hilariously, and she discovers that he's got a poster of her pinned up in his bunk. Pin-up poster?
Yeah, no, just a poster that was
Well,
pinned up, right?
now, are we talking about the same thing? Yeah, it's going
Oh,
to. Yeah, I wonder if that will come back. Oh, they. Here's the thing. I swear, everything in this episode, they set shit up. Just
oh
constantly.
because the poster you actually at the very beginning of the episode, if you watch quickly, you'll see that you spot it.
Okay, because yeah, I didn't see it till the end of the episode. They must have been blinked and you missed it that on
Yeah,
that one.
it was definitely a blink and miss it moment.
Well, yeah, they stay on it long enough so you could read the poster later at the end of the episode. So we cut to Mariner getting to nerd out with Uhura, who is too busy working to really care, and just work. Where it's like, we're taking a break. I want to go drink something because it's Mariner. But of course, she does it by quoting Starfleet codes and then makes her take a break because.
Why not? Although it's kind of funny, the whole thing of of Mariner being the one to cite regulations. I don't know if you also noticed it, but there was a comment that she made at some point about the rank insignias being on the sleeves and her not feeling too comfortable with that because what does she do all the time?
Rolls
Her
up her sleeves.
sleeves. Yeah.
Although the actual costume wasn't even full sleeved. Her costume was part sleeve with a strip to make it look rolled up.
Oh, okay.
I
'Cause,
I found that. Yeah, I literally found that out between the time we started. Well, by the time I got between the time I got on with you and then, because yeah, I cram everything in while you're on bio breaks. So, so of course Mariner takes him out to get drinks. She's making Hawaiian hurricanes. She doesn't have the right liquor to make real ones, but Ortegas joins in because yeah, this is what we do with Ortegas. So they sit, they drink. Uhura, of course, is trying to work under the table while pretending to relax and take a break. But of course, she has to stop and then sets her work up. And Ortegas figures out that this might be ancient Nausicaan because she's brilliant. Deserves her own goddamn episode.
agreed.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. They figure out they figure out. Oh, this is what it's got to be. So now Uhura's off to the races to go translate. So we get our seed with Spock and Boimler, where they're trying to manufacture heronium. Spock talks about why he's doing what he's doing and trying not to be too influenced by the fact that Boimler keeps babbling stuff that might change the future, and says it's logical that he go about on his present course because that's logical.
Mm.
And then, of course, their experiment to make heronium goes boom, and Boimler screams a hell of a lot. To be honest, I almost got a weird science vibe on this after Spock says, "Do you feel lucky?"
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there it explodes and then they peek out. It's like, whoop. Yeah, it was nuts.
It was a good shot though, especially when they were kind of when the explosion goes over their head.
And they're crouching like a couple nerds in their protective glasses,
Mm-hmm.
which were made extra nerdy. I swear.
Of course.
Yeah, like I said, weird science vibe.
They just had to have. They all they were missing was the bras on their head.
Fair enough. Okay, although that would have been kind of cool. Okay, so we get a scene with Pelia. Of course, she's giving him a little shit for messing with the time because, yeah, well, we could fix it if we could get it. If we could get a time machine, you could go back in time and fix all the things you messed up. But then she points out that heroes aren't heroes till they become heroes. Basically, fake it until you make it is the advice she gives him.
Yeah, she mentions an old friend of her told her that once. That old friend is one Cary Grant.
Yep. So of course, Boimler, being Boimler, decides to start breaking the rule. Decides it's time to start breaking rules. Goes to a shuttle to try to use the comms, and of course, Mariner shows up because it's Mariner. And they reference Q, but it's more of a Trelane. Boimler mentions Q, but she says, "Don't mention Q. They haven't met him yet." It's more of a Trelane thing, which reminds me of this book right here.
Q squared. Okay, so
Yeah,
yes, that was the one I was going to mention. That actually
I got the damn thing.
makes Trelane a junior member of the Q.
Yep, beta canon, but oh well.
But now
I'll
it's
take beta canon.
but now it's canon.
Oh, when did it get made primary canon?
This episode when they talk about the whole Trelane thing.
You're right. Okay.
So that's how they make that link.
Yep. There you go. Because of course they did, because it's lower decks.
Yeah.
Oh, and Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. Let's see here. That author, if I'm not mistaken,
Of what?
of that book.
Peter David.
Yeah, Peter David. Okay, so he is still actually for
literally.
Yeah, for some reason I thought that he may have passed, but no, he's still alive. Your author is still alive. Of course, one of the best Trek authors there have been. But anyways, I digress. Again.
Yeah. So Lon, of course, shows up pointing phasers and saying, "Okay, you're done." Uhura figured it out, blocked you because it's Uhura. So we get a scene where Pike dresses down Boimler and Mariner for their shit that they're pulling, and then he changes the subject to not really wanting a birthday party after referencing that he's going to become Fleet Captain Meltyface. Not saying it, but kind of referencing. Yeah, I know. But the whole point here is, he kind of doesn't want to deal with this birthday is particularly bad because this is the first birthday that'll be older than his dad, who he didn't get to kind of apologize and work out the problem. So he's planning on taking a bottle of whiskey, going fishing, ice fishing, and just disappearing and spending the day and having that conversation alone. They talk about somehow wander on to the subject of the NX01, and Boimler figures out how to fix all the problems. See, because back at the beginning where he referenced the fact that Heronium was used to make the ship hull, and it was the perfect color of gray. Because of course.
Of course, yeah.
And so there. So Boimler, so they gather together to discuss how to fix the problem. Boimler apologizes for all the fanboying, and then Boimler and Mariner start bouncing off each other as usual. But they discuss that the old NX01 was. They went to a museum, saw the NX01 and all the grapplers, and who said they liked the grapplers? They mentioned the grapplers a couple times. Everybody likes the grapplers. I don't know why.
I want to say that was Laan who.
Yeah, of course she'd like the grapplers.
Hmm.
She did spend some time with Kirk.
Yeah, he has 2 grapplers.
So they go down to engineering and pull up Peleus' floor to find a piece of heronium because
Why
a
not?
piece of the old ship is is put in at the beginning of the construction of the new ship with the same name. So apparently that's a thing. But yeah, they find it. So of course, while they're doing this, while they're pulling it out of Peleus' floor, Ortegas and Uhura start nerding out about Mayweather and Sato
Yeah, so that was the
because of course
first
they
time
do.
that I think that's the first time that in a live action series that that Enterprise is referenced.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if they've mentioned it in earlier episodes of Strange New Worlds.
I
I
don't
don't think
recall.
so. But yeah, there we go. So the NX. So yeah, we get Archer's Enterprise covered in Strange New World because obviously that's the past.
Hmm.
Um, so Mariner clears up with talks to Una and clears up that it's not a pinup poster. It's a recruitment poster, and it actually says on it "Ad Astra Per Aspera," which of course calls back to the episode of said name. They get saddled up. They get to the transporter pad. Spock says, "Live long and prosper." Boimler has his last nerd out,
Yep, and
and they
completely
beam down to the
tongue
planet.
ties on the way out.
Yeah, but we saw that the scene that we saw at the end of the teaser. It's
Hmm.
like,
Giggity.
yeah. So of course the Orions are waiting because somehow Boimler's message got through. Boimler and Mariner go on about things, convince the Orions to give back the grain because don't they don't want their they don't want their um, they don't want their friend to get wiped out because her great grandmother's aboard a ship. Her goes by the name that her friend goes by the name Mistress of the Winter Nights. Was it?
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, oh, you mean Astria Tendi? Yes.
Yes. The funny thing is, just for another little Easter egg right there, that grain that they're talking about that they traded to the
Yep.
Orions, that is the same quadrotriticale, which is the wheat that is known to grow in exceptionally harsh environments that we saw in the original series episode, "The Trouble with Tribbles,"
Which of course gets eaten.
by the Tribbles and
Yes.
Kirk. That's how he gets so fat.
Yeah. Where the Tribbles spell out, and then Cisco and crap, I can't remember.
Dax.
Cisco and Dax are chucking out and hitting Kirk in the head with in the episode Trials and Tribulations.
Hmm.
Okay, so we're really kind of bouncing through all the Star Treks
All of
because
them.
of course that's what happens. But yeah, that's how the Orions discovered this portal. So Boyle and Mariner say their goodbyes and walk back into the animated future, um, where we where of course Mariner points out mentions Astrea Tendi to Devon Tendi. They beam back to the ship, talk to. Of course, we finally get to see the Una poster in all its glory. Ransom shows up to be a dick as usual,
But of course,
and
he refers to Una as the hottest first officer in Starfleet, which of course, for those who aren't paying attention, Ransom is voiced by Jerry O'Connell, whose wife is Rebecca Romaine, who plays Una Chin Riley.
so of course, which would explain why they had him show up for that one little cameo.
Of course.
Beautiful. And that's the episode. Except we cut out to the Cerritos flying away, fade out, and we fade into the Enterprise, now animated, and the Strange New Worlds crew having a little gathering for Pike's birthday because he canceled his trip because he figured his friends would want to talk with him. So they're drinking Orion Hurricanes because
Real
Ortegas
ones.
got real Orion Delac so that they could do the drinking. Um, of course, it starts getting trippy. Uhura feels kind of two-dimensional.
Yep.
Um, Spock's arm kind of does that long woo 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 thing. Ortegas freaks out because she thinks she has big eyes, and of course we get a freak out animation. We get them freaking out a little bit animated, and that's the episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it started animated and ended animated. Boy, did it end animated.
Yeah, it did. Boy, did it end
Wow.
animated.
So not my favorite episode, not the best episode, but damn.
And I disagree. For me, has been the best episode of the season so far. Maybe not as
It's the
far as
funnest.
it is definitely great fun. Again, this is why we do. This is why crossovers are good. And I'm glad that it did not do the whole Roger Rabbit get the whole Roger Rabbit treatment where you mixed live action with animated. That I think that would have been just too weird because they probably would have gotten to the point there where they had to make it so lifelike that it breaks the uncanny valley. But anyways, definitely best way to handle it.
You mean like when Homer was in 3D?
Yes,
Ooh. But yeah,
exactly.
this is why you do crossovers, because seeing characters bounce off each other that you didn't, wondering how Spock and Data would be in the same room. We never got that, but that was pretty cool.
Mm.
But yeah, you get these character interactions that you never expect, and taking characters as just insane as the lower decks characters, and literally dropping them in the past where they can't talk about all the cool things they know are going to happen, and they just have to interact with people who they consider our heroes.
Mm.
It's insane. But yeah, Star Trek's done a lot of has done tons of crossovers from a few of the from Gotti and Bones and Spock showing up on TNG to Picard bringing Cisco up to speed on DS9
To
Trials
Cisco.
and Tribulations.
Yep, and Cisco briefing Janeway.
Yeah, it's just there is, yeah, just all this handoff and this bouncing back and forth, and yeah, it's just good fun to see what happens when you slam two crews together, and when you do it with people who are so insane that they're animated. Yeah,
Mm.
comedy ensues. But this got to me thinking, Jack and Tawny were perfect fits. They looked more or less like their characters. So you could throw uniforms on them, put them up in the right hairstyles, and throw them in, and you have your lower decks characters in live action. Which reminds me of when they cast over in the Star Wars universe when they cast Ahsoka, and they brought in the brilliant Rosario Dawson. My only downside was the voice actress for Ahsoka, since the for the very mediocre Star Wars Clone Wars movie, was Ashley Eckstein. She's perfect age and body type to have played Ahsoka. I would have loved to see what she could have done with that role. But oh well.
Yep, fair enough. Well, I mean, these things, they do make these decisions. I think largely they do it based on what they think is going to bring the greatest draw for that series, that movie, whatever. And I mean, of course, Rosario Dawson it just has that right attitude and right personality for that role.
Yep, she is absolutely, without question, my second favorite Ahsoka.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about before we rolled,
My
and we had
second favorite by that much behind Ashley.
they for the Ahsoka series, for the role of Hera, Syndulla is being played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Again, I think that's going to be, I think a good replacement. Although it would be, I mean, it would be nice if they had carried the original voice actors over, but still, not
It
bad
is what
choices.
it is.
Yeah. But thankfully, with the changes and everything, while things did get kind of crazy, it is quite clear based on what I read yesterday that this episode is not going to be the craziest or most insane episode of the season of Strange New Worlds.
because episode 9 apparently is going to be the musical episode.
Yep, I'm expecting a full-on Buffy the Vampire musical episode.
We've had the medieval episode.
Yep.
We've had the body swap episode. We've had the crossover with Lower Decks. Now we're getting a damn musical.
Yep.
And then after that musical is the final episode, which means next week has to be the fucking Ortegas episode, or I will destroy the entirety of Paramount. Okay, I think I just lost it on that one.
Yeah, you did. Thankfully, that's all the time we've got for this episode of Treknicity. Thank you for joining us as we talk about all things Star Trek. Please be sure to check us out on our wonderful socials listed up above, and join us as we enter our 10th year of Red Shirt Geeks by viewing all of our content at redshirtgeeks.tv. For those in the know, the 21st of July was our 9th anniversary, so we are now officially in our 10th year of content for this platform.
We're tweens!
I'm Lars.
I'm Patrick.
And remember to go boldly and to rock out with your Spock out, and we will see you next time.